The 2024 Paladin is riding in to save the day. Here's why I think you should give a smite. Paladins are the poster children for divine judgment and disapproving glares, much to your rogue's dismay.
Come on, what did I even do?
These holy warriors serve a greater power and draw might from the gods above, below, and, I don't know, over there. In exchange for this radiant blessing, paladins typically attempt to adhere to certain tenets that exemplify the ideals of their deity. But if you do manage to upset your miracle messiah mommy, the player's handbook says that you can win them over again by going on a hunger strike or just whining about it all night.
Open wide, here comes the flying broomstick. Ooh.
Not now, cleric. I'm sulking.
Once you've properly, petitioned your patron, you'll probably need strength or dexterity as your highest ability score, depending on the types of weapons you'd like to use. And you'll want to slot charisma into second place to help fuel your magical abilities. From there, a good constitution will likely be helpful for extra hit points and concentration checks, but your intelligence and wisdom will probably be what you care least about, even though religion is an intelligence-based skill. If you're wondering which out of strength or dexterity is more optimal for damage output, you may want to check out this video. Just keep in mind that you will need at least a 13 in strength and charisma if you decide to multi-class out of Paladin later, so you may not want to completely dump your strength even if you decide to build a Dexodin. Considering that, you'll want to look at backgrounds that prioritize the skills you need, like Noble, Charlatan, or Entertainer. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here though. So feel free to work with your DM on your own custom background that allows you to choose which ability scores you boost, which proficiencies you gain, and which origin feat you get. I personally like the tough origin feat for the Paladin, but the musician feat can work well if someone else in your party hasn't already picked it up. Or you could always take Magic Initiate. Picking up the shield spell from the wizard list can go a long way in helping you tank at the front lines, and taking Fairy Fire from Druid can be a nice offensive option if you feel confident that you can maintain concentration. Even just grabbing a couple of ranged damage dealing cantrips or the Cleric's Guidance cantrip can come in handy, so it's definitely worth considering. And there are some great synergies to be had when selecting your species option too. Orcs and dwarves can be fairly stout, elves and tieflings give access to some pretty handy spells, and Goliaths and Aasimar offer a slew of flavorful abilities that work really well on paladins. That said, just about anything will do fine, so I wouldn't feel too bound to any one option. You'll probably be under so much armor that no one will know what you picked anyway.
Haha, I was just a boring human all along!
Then, assuming you've tithed enough gold pieces for an ample blessing, you'll start out your paladin journey with a d10 hit die and 10 plus your constitution modifier in starting hit points, proficiency in wisdom and charisma saving throws, simple and martial weapons, light, medium, and heavy armor, shields, and any 2 skills out of athletics, insight, intimidation, medicine, persuasion, and religion. So you'll be built for the front lines, and you'll be able to use just about any weapon you come across if you'd rather try making a ranged paladin for some reason.
Go forth, men! The gods are with us! I'll just be back here where it's safe.
Then, starting right away at level 1, you'll unlock spellcasting with a selection of 2 first-level spells from the Paladin spell list. The player's handbook recommends that you take Heroism and Searing Smite to start out, but you may want to take Bless or Divine Favor instead. Divine Favor in particular is one of my favorite Paladin exclusive options that adds a d4 of radiant damage on every weapon attack you land for a minute without requiring concentration. Regardless, you can always change out one of your spell selections each time you long rest, so you won't be too tied down there. And of course, your spell attack modifier will be your charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus, and your spell save DC will be that plus 8. But that may not come into play all that often. If you take a quick look over the Paladin spell list, you'll find that many options don't rely directly on your charisma, though some still do. They'll more often apply a buff to your allies while you attempt to keep concentration, or they'll simply rely on your own ability to land attacks. And to double down on that strategy will also unlock Weapon Mastery at first level. I've detailed a lot of the Weapon Mastery mechanics at length in this video, and even more about the new equip and stow mechanics that you can make use of in this one, if you want a real deep dive on all that stuff. But for now, you'll just need to know that Paladin gets access to mastery properties for 2 kinds of weapons that you're already proficient in using. I really like options like the Maul and War Pick, but there are a lot of cool combos you can make use of if you'd rather do something different. In any case, you can swap out what you select every time you long rest, so you can employ different tactics depending on what works best for the day ahead. And alongside that savvy offense, you can also rely on your Lay on Hands feature beginning at first level. This ability grants you 5 times your Paladin level in healing that you can spend as you see fit when you touch a creature as a bonus action. For example, you could top off several wounded allies after a fight, spend 5 hit points from the pool to remove the poison condition from a creature, or just touch yourself in the heat of battle. Those 5 hit points won't seem like much starting out, but it will scale pretty well as you level. Just keep in mind that it is a bonus action to use, and that'll compete with the biggest feature of second level. Paladin Smite ensures that you always have the Divine Smite spell prepared, and even allows you to cast it for free once per long rest. However, this isn't the same old Smite some of you may know from base 5e. For one, Divine Smite is a spell now, so it can be counterspelled or outright shut down if you're silenced, since the spell does have a verbal component. But even more troublesome is the fact that it'll cost a bonus action for you to cast it when you land a melee weapon attack or unarmed strike. So at just level 2, you've already got a lot of competition for your bonus action between Lay on Hands, spells like Bind Favor, and now Smites. When you do smite though, you'll be dishing out buckets of single target damage with an extra 2d8 radiant or 3d8 radiant damage if the target is a fiend or undead. And you'll get an extra d8 for each spell slot level you upcast it as your paladin powers continue to grow. Now, you will want to be careful about being too trigger happy early on. At level 2, you'll only be able to smite 3 times per long rest at most, so be sure to save them for when you land a crit or when you really need that extra damage.
Personally, I believe that true divinity comes from within.
In the meantime, your selected fighting style will hold you over pretty well here. As is typical, you'll have your pick of the fighting style feats along with an extra option in Blessed Warrior. This will allow you to pick up 2 cleric cantrips of your choice and replace one of them each time you gain a level, but I'd probably recommend something else unless you really want guidance. The defense fighting style is probably your best bet in general, but many of the other options can offer decent results too. Just be sure to take into account the kinds of weapons and combat strategies that you're most likely to use, because you'll be locked into whatever you pick as we move on to 3rd level. Here, you'll unlock the ability to channel divinity directly from your deity in order to perform certain miraculous acts. These effects will use your spell save DC wherever necessary, and you'll have power enough to do this up to 2 times each long rest, but you can also regain a use of the feature anytime you finish a short rest. For now, you'll only have access to the Divine Sense channel divinity that reveals the precise location of any celestials, fiends, and undead within 60 feet for 10 minutes. The effect will also allow you to detect any consecrated or desecrated objects or areas, but it does require a bonus action to activate, so I guess we can add that to the list. That said, it's bound to come in handy anytime the vibes are off. More importantly, you'll get much more impressive options as you pick your Paladin subclass. There are 4 options printed in the 2024 Player's Handbook, but you can utilize any of the older 5e subclasses that haven't been reprinted, and I'll be sure to link any videos covering new Paladin subclasses as they're unearthed. Regardless, each of the new subclasses will grant additional features at 3rd, 7th, 15th, and 20th levels, including abilities that expand what you can do with your channel divinity and what you can do with your level 6 Aura of Protection feature. Don't worry, we'll touch on that in just a moment. All you need to know for now is that creatures within 10 feet of you are affected by it. Now, let's have a look at the first Paladin subclass.
What exactly is the difference between you and cleric? You both seem so devout. Oh yes! I left the seminary the very moment I discovered my passion for killing.
Oh. In all seriousness, devotion paladins are probably the goodest boys of the bunch. They swear to uphold the ideals of justice and order by protecting the weak through their deeds and never wavering on their word. And as soon as you take on this righteous purpose, you'll get access to a list of always prepared spells that includes options like Aid, Zone of Truth, Guardian of Faith, and Flame Strike, to name a few. Also at level 3, you'll become able to create a sacred weapon by utilizing your channel divinity. When you take the attack action, you can cause a melee weapon to radiate light. Moreover, you can change that weapon's damage type to radiant if you prefer, which can be pretty helpful for getting around some resistances. A glowing weapon can sometimes be just as much a hindrance as it is a help, but an extra 3 each attack is certainly nice. Level 7 gives you and any allies within your aura of protection immunity to the charmed condition, and level 15 gives those creatures half cover until the start of your next turn anytime you use Divine Smite. A +2 for AC and dexterity saving throws is definitely helpful, and you'll probably be smiting pretty often by that point too. And then level 20 improves your aura even further for a limited 10-minute period. As a bonus action, you can have your aura give you advantage on any saving throw incurred from a fiend or undead, deal your proficiency bonus and charisma modifier in radiant damage to any enemy that starts their turn in the aura, and fill the aura with bright light. You can only do this once per long rest, however, and even if you can restore that use by burning a 5th level spell slot, you may prefer not to. It's a relatively situational 20th level feature, but the rest of the subclass does a solid job of building on top of the Paladin's best features, so I do like it a lot, and most campaigns don't make it to level 20 anyway.
I've seen what you're capable of. You've got this.
It's very kind.
Because you have me.
What?
Now get out there and like the video.
Paladins that take the Oath of Glory inspire their companions with acts of heroism and courage, and they aren't always quite so full of themselves as you might think. Right away, they can start using their list of always prepared spells like Guiding Bolt, Heroism, Haste, and Yolan's Regal Presence to help empower their allies. Even your Divine Smites get a boost when you take the subclass by granting you 2d8 plus your Paladin level and temporary hit points to divide among allies within 30 feet. And while their Channel Divinity just increases your jump distance and gives you advantage on athletics and acrobatics checks for an hour as a bonus action, that's still bound to come in handy at some point. At level 7, your base speed increases by 10 feet, and your Aura of Protection extends that bonus to any allies that start their turn within it. Level 15 allows you to spend a reaction to boost the AC of any creature within 10 feet by your Charisma modifier, and then attack in response. Even if this is only available to you Charisma modifier times per long rest, combining a weaker shield spell and Hellish Rebuke into one reaction is probably as good as it sounds. Then, at level 20, you can use a bonus action to give yourself advantage on all charisma checks, use your reaction to re-roll saving throws you fail, and auto-hit an attack you miss once per turn. Just like the Oath of Devotion, these effects will only last for 10 minutes, and you can only use this once per long rest unless you burn a 5th level spell slot. But this time, I'd say it's actually worth doing that. After all, it's for the sake of your companions, and they'll be glad to have such a strong paladin on their side.
You said you could soil this holy domain!
In terms of flavor, Oath of the Ancients Paladins are my personal favorites. I actually played one in a livestream campaign if you'd like to see it in action. These warriors do Steve Irwin proud by protecting natural life while inspiring hope through their acts of service. Right away, you'll pick up some flavorful, always prepared spells in Misty Step, Moonbeam, Ice Storm, and Tree Stride, to name a few. You'll also gain a Channel Divinity option that allows you to restrain creatures within 15 feet against a strength save. Sadly, it does take an action to do and will only last for a minute or shorter if the targets make a subsequent saving throw, but it does still have its uses. Then level 7 grants you and allies within your aura of protection resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage, which should be a lot more useful. Level 15 pops you up with 3 times your paladin level in hit points the first time you drop to 0 each long rest, and keeps you forever young. And your level 20 bonus action feature will force disadvantage onto enemies within your aura against saves from your spells and channel divinities, heal you for 10 hit points each turn, and allow you to cast action spells as bonus actions instead. This is pretty strong, so it should come as no surprise that it only lasts for 1 minute, but you can use the feature more than once per long rest if you spend a 5th level spell slot to do it. I'll say it again. I really like the Oath of Ancients in terms of flavor. Even if it is the weakest of these 4 subclasses, it's not exactly a bad option.
Wait, before you kill me, tell me your name.
I'm Jonathan Wicked, but you can call me Vengeance.
Paladins who swear the oath of vengeance show no mercy to the wicked and fight to rid the world of injustice. Evildoers unlucky enough to have John Wicked an animal companion will be facing down fantastic spells like Hunter's Mark, Haste, Banishment, and Hold Person, but those are far from the only good options on the list. If the prospect of Hunter's Mark and Divine Favor working together doesn't get you fired up, then maybe their extra channel divinity option will. Right away at 3rd level, Vengeance Paladins can activate their Vow of Enmity against a creature within 30 feet as they take the attack action. This will give you advantage on all attack rolls against that creature for a full minute, and it can even be moved to another creature within 30 feet if and really when the first one dies. It's a pretty ridiculous feature to stack on top of so much bonus damage, but level 7 makes it even better. Here, enemies can't even hope to escape your wrath, as opportunity attacks you land reduce the creature's speed to 0 and allow you to move up to half your movement speed as well. Level 15 allows you to make an extra attack as a reaction when a creature you vowed against misses you with an attack roll. And then level 20 exists as the final nail in the coffin of your enemies. As a bonus action, you'll gain a fly speed of 60 feet with hover, and your aura of protection will frighten any enemies that start their turn within it against a wisdom saving throw. Not only does that frightened condition last for a minute thereafter with no subsequent save, but all attack rolls against that creature, yours and everyone else's, then have advantage. Just like most of the other subclasses, these effects last for 10 minutes and you'll need to burn a 5th level spell slot if you want to do this more than once per long rest. And I'm pretty sure you're going to want to do that. The Vengeance Paladin is absolutely the best option here mechanically, and it's really cool too. But regardless of what oath you take, they'll all eventually lead you to 4th level where you'll get your first feat. And you'll get to do so again at 8th, 12th, and 16th levels, as well as 19th level when you get an epic boon feat. At level 5, you'll get to make 2 attacks when you take the attack action, and you'll get your very own fancy horse that's guaranteed to never break your heart.
You're my friend. I love you.
Here, your paladin will always have the Find Steed spell prepared, and you can cast it once per long rest without using a spell slot. But this isn't your daddy's steed. The spell has been completely overhauled in 2024. To start, Find Steed now has a casting time of just 1 action instead of 10 minutes like before, and you'll get a lot more out of its stat block too. The steed will share your initiative count and will function as a mount with a whopping 60-foot movement speed or a 60-foot fly speed if you upcast it beyond 3rd level. Your stud of a stallion will also scale its HP, AC, and a few other statistics depending on the spell slot level you spend for it too. Although the base casting you get for free once per long rest will only give them 12 AC and 25 hit points, so you may want to be somewhat protective of them. Since this is a major feature for paladins now, it's probably time we take a look at the mounted combat rules, just to see exactly what this all means. You can mount or dismount a rideable creature if you're within 5 feet of it by spending half of your total movement to do so without any action or bonus action. Once you're saddled up and strapped in, that creature shares your initiative and you control its movement on your turn. It's also possible to be thrown off of your mount if either of you are knocked prone or if an effect forces your steed to move against its will. In such cases, you'll need to pass a DC 10 Dex save or fall prone on the ground within 5 feet. It should be an easy enough check to pass in most cases, and it's worth noting that it doesn't keep you from being knocked prone. It just determines if you and the steed fall prone separately or together. But most importantly, your steed gets to act too. While mounted, a creature can only take the dash, disengage, and dodge actions, but that does also leave their bonus action free, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. For now, you'll want to be making full use of your steed's action economy, and there are a few interesting rules involved in doing so. First, if you have your mount dash, you'll get a blistering 120-foot movement speed on your turn. And if that's still not enough, you can always dismount at the end of that movement for another 15 feet or so. Alternatively, if you need to flee an enemy's range, the steed can take the disengage action for you. And since the steed is using their movement to escape, your enemy can't make an opportunity attack on you either. This probably seems pretty obvious, but it's worth pointing out that rogues and monks, for example, need to burn a bonus action to do all this stuff, and you get it for free with a better movement speed too. Most crucial of all, your mount can take the dodge action for advantage on dexterity saves, as well as to force disadvantage on attacks made to hit them. This will help to keep your squishy pony from being turned into glue, but the steed's dodge doesn't do anything for you personally. Now, with all that out of the way, let's take a closer look at these magical mares. Your otherworldly steed can communicate with you telepathically within 1 mile, and also regains hit points from leveled spells that heal you if you're within 5 feet of it. It does have an otherworldly slam attack for some pretty mediocre damage, but as we discussed, you'll probably not make much use of that since you'll want to be riding the steed most of the time anyway. What sets these creatures apart from typical mounts are their bonus actions. When you cast the spell, you'll select either a celestial, fey, or fiend steed, and each will carry their own unique effects that can each only be used once per long rest. The celestial can use a bonus action to heal one creature within 5 feet by 2d8 plus the level of the Find Steed spell. The Fae can bonus action teleport up to 60 feet away with you riding on top of it. And the Fiend can frighten a creature within 60 feet by using your spell save DC against a wisdom save. So yeah, don't sleep on this new spell turned feature for Paladin. Whether you're just using this spell to boost your movement speed to the extreme or for some extra once per long rest effects, I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. Then level 6 will finally grant you the incredible aura of protection you've been hearing so much about. This aura is one of the rare features in the game that is just always on, unless you're incapacitated, of course. Creatures within 10 feet of you gain bonuses to all their saving throws equal to your charisma modifier, and yes, that's as crazy as it sounds. Even within the 2024 rules, I think a lot of players forget how powerful this is, and that's before you factor in whatever added effect you get from your subclass too. By this level, you're likely to be serving up a healthy +3 to saves that will probably be increasing to +4 or +5 at some point down the line. Speaking of spells and spell saves, at 9th level you'll unlock your first 3rd level spell slots, so you'll probably want to be considering options like Aid to give you and your allies some extra durability, Magic Weapon in case your DM is a little stingy on +1 weapons, Blinding Smite to sacrifice a little smite damage for an automatic blinding effect that will last at least 1 round, and Crusader's Mantle to basically give the effects of Divine Favor to yourself and all your allies. Also at 9th level, you'll become able to abjure foes with a magic action by expending a use of your channel divinity. As a result, charisma modifier number of creatures you can see within 60 feet will become frightened of you for a minute against a wisdom saving throw. Those frightened creatures will only be able to move, take an action, or take a bonus action on each of their turns. It's kind of like an AoE mind whip, and I have seen firsthand how strong that can be.
Hey! Quit running with that before you poke your eye out. Sorry.
Then level 10 improves your aura of protection so that creatures within it become immune to the frightened condition. 11th level grants you a 3rd use of your channel divinity and an automatic 1d8 extra radiant damage on all your melee weapon attacks and unarmed strikes. 14th level expands the use of your lay on hands ability so that you can also expend 5 hit points from your pool of healing to remove the blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned condition. And level 17 sees you gain access to 5th level spells, so let's take another look at a few more good options to consider at this point, like Aura of Life to keep your allies up at 1 hit point, since they'll do just as much damage at 1 HP anyway. Staggering Smite gives a little less smite damage in exchange for a potential stun until your next turn. Vanishing Smite can possibly remove an enemy from the fight for a full minute, and Summon Celestial provides an extra body on the battlefield that deals a little damage and heals allies as well. But even all that pales in comparison to what you get at 18th level when your Aura of Protection becomes a 30-foot emanation instead of just 10 feet. 30 feet is going to cover just about your entire party, except for maybe the squishies all the way in the back. By now, there's a good chance that you'll be giving everyone +5 or at least +4 to all their saves, immunity to being frightened, and whatever else your subclass gave you. And that's just always on for free. Paladins are more than just smiting machines. They're holy protectors with ridiculous movement options that can spread tons of helpful effects to the rest of your party from pretty early on. And if you really want to improve your aura, you'll need to check out the Paladin Beard products from Tabletop Beard by following the link in the description below and using code CHAOS20 to get 20% off of your entire order. And you'll be helping out the channel at the same time. But if you're still looking for a better way to boost your Paladin's effectiveness even further, you're going to want to check out this video next. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and until next time, go out there and make some chaos.